Hi, I'm Di. Welcome to my channel. I've just been out in the garden, so I'm a bit hot and sweaty. I've just been picking some things. I'm going to be making more than one recipe here. So for this video, I'm making spaghetti bolognese. So there's lots of different variations of spaghetti bolognese. I'll go through the ingredients that I'm going to be using, but one of the versions I was told about, if you really on a very tight budget and you don't have much in your pantry, one way of making spaghetti bolognese is just to brown your mince with a bit of onion, add a large tin of tomato soup, and that's basically it. And then you just serve it over your pasta, whatever you want, spaghetti or any other sort of pasta. And if times are a bit tough, like they are at the moment, and we're all trying to save money, that is a delicious meal. And serve it up with a bit of salad, especially if you're growing it in your yard, some lettuce and some beans and things that are growing at the moment here in Australia. It's November in Australia at the moment, so all those sorts of things are growing in the garden. You may even have some silver beet that you might want to just quickly blanch and serve up, or you just go through your fridge and see what you've got and make some sort of salad out of it. Always nice with a bit of grated cheese on top. So let's get to it and have a look at what ingredients we're going to be using for this version of spaghetti bolognese. Okay, so here's the ingredients that we're going to be using. First off, I'm using gluten-free spaghetti. You can use any sort of pasta that you like, and it doesn't need to be gluten-free, but if you have anyone who is gluten intolerant or just prefers not to eat gluten, gluten-free pasta is quite good. Okay, we need 500 grams of, this is minced beef. I will generally use kangaroo mince, but I just had this. I bought 2 kilos of mince, so I'm just using it up in different recipes. So that's 500 grams of beef mince. We've got 1 diced onion there. I've got 3 cloves of garlic. There I've got some mushrooms. I just grabbed those out of the freezer. What I do when the mushrooms are on special, I get them. Sometimes I dehydrate them. Other times I'll cook them up in a bit of butter and then I just put them in the freezer. So that's what I've done there. I've just grabbed cooked mushrooms out of the freezer. And the reason I do that is because mushrooms are generally around about $11 up to $14 a kilo. But my local grocer has had them on special recently for $3.49 a kilo. So I take advantage when there's specials on. We've got some olives there. At the back, I've got OXO cubes. Now, if you haven't got OXO cubes, I'll use 1 OXO cube for 500 grams of mince. But if you don't have OXO cubes, Vegemite's a good substitute. And use at least a teaspoon, but up to 2 teaspoons, depending on how much you like Vegemite, and also it will make the dish salty, so keep that in mind. So just taste it as you're flavouring it, and then you'll know that you're not adding too much. I've got some diced tomato there. They're Italian, so they're flavoured with basil and oregano. There's some tomatoes that I grew last summer and I bottled, so I'm using 2 jars of that. And that's all we need. So let's get on. Oh, we also need some olive oil, just a bit so that the meat doesn't stick while we're cooking it. So we'll just get onto it and start cooking. Okay, so first off, put the heat on and we'll add some olive oil to our pan. We won't use too much because I'm using the minced beef and it's 3-star minced beef, which means that oil will come out of it. When I use kangaroo mince, I do need to use a fair bit of oil, but what I do, I just wait and see as it's cooking if it needs more oil, and then I'll just be adding bits to it. So kangaroo mince is my preferred mince. It's 98% fat-free, and they're not farmed. They just jump around the countryside, you know, eating whatever they do, leaves and grass and everything natural. There's no hormones, there's no nothing. A lot of people are against the fact that we do eat kangaroo, but there are too many of them, and the farmers wouldn't be able to run their farms if they didn't do a cull. So we're going to add our onions to our pan. We'll move those around a little bit and get them cooking. Once they've cooked, we'll add the garlic. I don't add the garlic with the onions initially because garlic will burn. So we just cook those a little bit. I'll come back when that's cooked. So that onion is just starting to brown now. So I'll add the garlic. So that's finely chopped fresh garlic. You can also use the minced garlic, which comes in a jar. Just cook that a little bit. The smell of that. Oh, I'll be driving the neighbours nuts. I'll be able to smell it. Okay, and there's our mince. I'm just adding that to the pan. And you can see at the back there I've put another pan on. That's just salted water that I've put in there so that I can cook some spaghetti to go with this. So what we're doing here, we just need to break the mince up as it cooks so that we don't get it all clumping together in big lumps of meat. So we want it broken up as much as possible. So what I'll do, I'll continue to just keep breaking it up as it's cooking. And then we'll come back because this will take a few minutes to do that. Okay, the mince is all cooked through, and just as I said, you can see that it's there's some oil that's come out of that minced beef. Not too much, so that's pretty good. But I'm glad I didn't use too much olive oil at the beginning. So the next thing that we're going to be doing, just checking my pot, it's not quite boiling, is just adding all our flavourings will be the next thing. So I'm going to add an oxo cube. Just crumble that in there. And I also am going to add some Vegemite. Oh, I can't open the jar. I'm just going to add a little bit of Vegemite to that. Probably about half a teaspoon. It just gives it a really nice flavour. Now, as I said, I was out in the garden earlier, and while I was there I was picking herbs for my next recipe, and one of the herbs I picked was rosemary, and I have diced or chopped that up really finely, so I'm just going to add some rosemary, nice fresh rosemary, to our bolognese. Just mix that through. With that Vegemite, you want to break it up because otherwise somebody might end up with a big mouthful just of Vegemite. There we go. Now we're going to add our tomato products. I can't open it. That is a good sign. Oh, nice, good seal. When you make your own stuff, you want to hear that when you're opening it. There we go. So we've got tomatoes. Got another jar of passata. I don't know if you could see what I was doing there. I've got this little device which pops the jars for me. It takes that suction out of them and it makes it easier to open them. Now I'm adding the canned tomatoes. throw in the mushrooms. And remember, they're already cooked. So, and the olives are the last to go in. Now I won't salt it at this stage. What I want to do is to let that simmer away and let the flavours develop, and then I'll give it a taste, because as you recall, I added Vegemite, which is very salty, and I also added an oxo cube, which does contain a lot of salt, and I just want to make sure that it's not too salty before I add anything to it. So there you have it. That's all done there. We don't need to do anything else, except I'm going to put a lid on that and simmer it. As you simmer it, you develop the flavours, and that will thicken up. Sometimes if it's not very thick or it's not very tomatoey, I will add a small jar of tomato paste. I think that they're 140 grams, but that seems fine there. And our water's just boiling, so I'll put the pasta on to cook. Just switch lids. There we go. And we'll come back once I've let that simmer for quite some time and I've served it up, and you can have a look at it.